In a world dominated by norms, expectations, and collective values, the idea of an individual who stands apart, an individual who not only defies societal constraints but also creates their own rules, may seem both appealing and terrifying. Imagine a person who rises above the masses, an individual so fully in control of themselves that they not only live according to their own desires, but also reshape the very nature of what it means to be human. This figure is Nietzsche's Ubermensch, or Overman, a concept that has captivated philosophers, artists, and thinkers for over a century. But who is the Ubermensch? And why does Nietzsche believe such an individual is essential for humanity's future? Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most provocative and controversial philosophers in history, introduced the idea of the Ubermensch in his famous work Thus Spoke Zarathustra, 1883. Through this concept, Nietzsche proposed a new type of human existence, one that transcends traditional morality and embraces self-overcoming, creativity, and individualism. The Ubermensch is not merely an intellectual ideal, but a challenge to the limitations imposed by society, religion, and culture. The Ubermensch, in Nietzsche's philosophy, represents the next step in human evolution, a superhuman, in a sense, not in terms of physical prowess, but in terms of the depth of their inner freedom, creativity, and strength of will. But what exactly is the Ubermensch, and how does one embody this philosophical ideal? To answer these questions, we must dive into the heart of Nietzsche's worldview, exploring his critique of traditional values, his notion of the will to power, and his vision of human potential. Before we explore Nietzsche's concept of the Ubermensch further, I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the Unfolding Journey, a space where we delve into the most profound and thought-provoking ideas that shape our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. On this channel, we explore philosophy, psychology, literature, and much more, breaking down complex ideas into digestible pieces so that we can embark on our own intellectual journeys together. If you're someone who enjoys thinking critically about the world and uncovering the mysteries of human nature, you found the right place. So don't forget to subscribe, and let's continue to explore the depths of human potential. To understand Nietzsche's Ubermensch, we must first explore the broader context of his philosophy. Nietzsche's ideas are often framed within the context of his critique of traditional Western values, particularly the values rooted in Christianity, the Enlightenment, and classical philosophy. Nietzsche believed that the rise of rationalism and religious dogma had stifled the creative potential of humanity. In the modern world, people had come to rely too heavily on external authorities, religion, the state, social norms, to define what was right and wrong, good and bad. One of Nietzsche's most famous proclamations, "God is dead," is often misunderstood. Rather than a literal declaration of atheism, Nietzsche was observing the decline of religious belief in the modern world. With the death of God, he saw a profound shift in the way people would need to think about morality and meaning. Without divine guidance, humans were faced with the responsibility of creating their own values. This is where the concept of the Ubermensch enters the picture. The Ubermensch, for Nietzsche, represents the individual who rejects the pre-established moral codes handed down by society, religion, or tradition. This figure is not bound by the conventional moralities of good and evil, but instead creates their own values, their own ethical framework, and their own meaning in life. The Ubermensch lives authentically, grounded in their own will and desires, constantly striving to improve themselves and reach their fullest potential. The Ubermensch is a figure of self-overcoming. Nietzsche believed that humanity is in a state of constant flux, constantly evolving and changing. The individual who embraces this fluidity is one who actively shapes their own identity and transcends the limitations imposed by societal norms. The Ubermensch is not a finished product, but a process, a journey of continuous growth, transformation, and self-mastery. In Nietzsche's view, traditional moralities are restrictive and life-denying. For example, Christianity's focus on humility, meekness, and the afterlife are seen by Nietzsche as ways to suppress human potential in this life. The Ubermensch, on the other hand, affirms life in all its complexities, its joys and struggles, and seeks to live to the fullest, not through external rewards, but through internal fulfillment. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy is the concept of the will to power, which serves as the underlying force that drives individuals toward growth, mastery, and self-realization. For Nietzsche, the will to power is not just a desire for domination over others, but an internal force that pushes individuals to assert themselves, overcome obstacles, and shape their own reality. It is through the will to power that the Ubermensch is able to transcend the limitations of conventional morality and become the creator of their own values. The will to power manifests in various forms, whether it is intellectual, artistic, or physical. It is a force that drives the individual to continually strive for self-improvement, to push the boundaries of what is possible, and to become a master of their own fate. The Ubermensch embodies this will to power in its purest form, seeking not just to survive, but to thrive and create meaning in a world that is, according to Nietzsche, inherently meaningless. One of the most striking aspects of Nietzsche's philosophy is his view of suffering. Unlike many philosophers who see suffering as something to be avoided or overcome, Nietzsche sees it as an essential part of the human experience. Suffering, for Nietzsche, is not a negative force to be feared, but a necessary part of the process of self-overcoming. In fact, he believes that it is through suffering that individuals can truly grow and reach their fullest potential. The Ubermensch is someone who does not shy away from suffering, but embraces it as an inevitable part of life. Rather than seeing suffering as something to be endured passively, the Ubermensch actively transforms it into a source of strength and growth. This transformation is possible through the process of the love of one's fate. The Ubermensch accepts and even embraces the challenges and struggles that life presents, seeing them as opportunities for personal growth rather than obstacles to be avoided. Nietzsche's concept of the eternal recurrence is also closely related to the Ubermensch. The eternal recurrence posits that everything in the universe repeats itself infinitely, and that our lives will be lived over and over again in exactly the same way. The Ubermensch, in embracing this idea, must live as though they would be willing to relive their life eternally, with all its joys and sufferings. This requires a profound acceptance of one's fate and a commitment to living fully in each moment. While the Ubermensch is an individualistic ideal, it is important to understand how Nietzsche views the relationship between the Ubermensch and society. Nietzsche is not advocating for a life of complete isolation or social disengagement. Rather, he is advocating for a radical form of individualism that exists alongside society, but is not dependent on it. The Ubermensch does not live for the approval of others or to conform to societal norms. Instead, they live according to their own values and seek to inspire others to do the same. The Ubermensch challenges conventional notions of success, beauty, and morality, and through this challenge, they inspire others to break free from the chains of societal expectations. Nietzsche believed that the Ubermensch would not only transform themselves, but would also act as a catalyst for the transformation of society as a whole. By living authentically and creating new values, the Ubermensch becomes a beacon of possibility, showing others that it is possible to transcend the limitations of the herd and become something greater. Nietzsche's concept of the Ubermensch has had a profound impact on philosophy, literature, and art, influencing thinkers such as Jean-Paul Sartre, Martin Heidegger, and Albert Camus, as well as existentialist and postmodern movements. The idea of creating one's own values and living authentically resonates with many modern philosophical and psychological schools of thought, particularly those focused on personal development and self-actualization. However, the concept of the Ubermensch has also been misinterpreted and misused, particularly in the political sphere. Some have taken Nietzsche's ideas and twisted them to justify elitism, authoritarianism, and even fascism. This is a misreading of Nietzsche, who was critical of nationalism, anti-Semitism, and any form of collective ideology that sought to impose its will on individuals. The Ubermensch is not about domination or power over others, but about mastery over oneself and the creation of a life that is truly one's own. In conclusion, Nietzsche's concept of the Ubermensch represents a radical vision of human potential. The Ubermensch is not a fixed, final state, but an ongoing process of self-overcoming, creative expression, and personal growth. The Ubermensch embodies the will to power in its truest form, rejecting societal norms and creating their own values in a world without inherent meaning. In a time when many feel trapped by external expectations and the weight of tradition, Nietzsche's Ubermensch offers a path to personal freedom and transformation. At the unfolding journey, we've explored how the Ubermensch challenges us to transcend our limitations and live authentically. If you found this exploration of Nietzsche's philosophy intriguing, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content on philosophy, psychology, and the timeless ideas that shape our world. By subscribing, you'll join us on an ongoing journey of intellectual discovery, pushing the boundaries of thought and understanding. Until next time, remember, The journey of self-overcoming is never-ending, and the Ubermensch is not a distant ideal but a path we can all walk, one step at a time.